welcome back to YuriCon 2023. Today I have a really great panel. We're going to be talking about making space for diversity and inclusion in anime and manga journalism. And I have been joined by three incredible journalists who've really made a difference in everything you read and the way you read it. So I want to welcome them all today, and I'm going to turn it over to each of you to introduce yourselves. Why don't we begin with Lindsay?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Leveridge. I'm the executive editor at Anime News Network. I've been in that position for about almost 3 years now, but I've been with Anime News Network itself for over a decade, and I'm just really happy to be here. I respect all you guys so much, so thank you for including me on this panel.
Thank you very much. And Samantha, why don't you take it over?
Hello, I'm Samantha Ferreira. I'm the editor-in-chief at Anime Herald. I've been in the industry for about 21 years now. And I've been operating Anime Herald since 2010. I'm currently also writing an anime history book, so nice to see you all.
Excellent, wonderful. And Vry, you're the baby here.
Yeah, I guess so. Hi, I'm Vry, they, them. I am a managing content editor, and I'm in charge of daily operations for Anime Feminist.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. So when Anime Feminist came out into the world, it was sort of fully formed with we're going to be the space, right? We're going to be the space that says all the inclusion, all the diversity. And a lot of people really resonated with that, but it dawned on me that Samantha and I and Lindsay had been making space quietly, carefully over 20 years, right? And so I thought I wanted to have all of you talk about like the goods and the bads and going beyond policies, because it's so easy, I think, to say we have a policy of inclusion and then never do anything that isn't somebody you know. You know, but I use my Rolodex all the time. I just totally dated myself, didn't I? Nobody has a Rolodex anymore. So yeah, so nobody looks beyond their contacts anymore. So I wanted to talk to you all about how you do what you do and what it is gaining you and what it is giving to us, the anime and manga fandom. So I'm going to start with Samantha, because you and I have been in this game quite a long time. What are some of your experiences with diversity in the anime manga fandom and discourse at large? And start with something maybe negative that you ran into in the early days. And I just want to sort of establish a base of the kinds of things we ran into, and then some of the more positive things we've seen going forward.
All right, absolutely. When I got started back in 2002, anime and manga spaces were generally a straight white dude space. I mean, I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of publications hired primarily male authors and editors, and generally it was a very different space than what we see today. Heck, even Anime Dream, where I started off, I believe there were 3 women on the staff, and the rest were all all male at the same time. And honestly, in the years I followed, it's really kind of grown and changed since then. I mean, we've seen a lot more diverse voices coming in. We've seen more women enter the space, more non-binary, more queer, more BIPOC people. It's been almost, if you look at the world of where I started and the world we are today, it's almost unrecognizable in the best ways possible.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah, no, I started out just with my own blog in 2013, which I made purely because I was obsessed with the woman called Fujiko Mine, and nobody was making the meta that I wanted to see, so I did that. And I was one of the founding members alongside Amelia when AniFem started in 2016, and yeah, at the time when it started, there was definitely sort of a learning curve of right-wing reactionary types were really, really mad.
Well, you actually started that, you and Amelia started that, and the whole team started that right kind of in Gamergate world.
Yeah, like it was after Gamergate technically, but Anita Sarkeesian was still very much being pilloried in the limelight for doing the most 101 sort of theory
Right.
takes for people. And I feel very lucky that Amelia was kind of had the fire to take all that on head first, while the rest of us were kind of getting our feet up under us.
Right.
And I feel really lucky that in the years since, especially through the Discord, we've been able to start trying to foster this safe space for queer and trans and fans of color, and that's very special to me, and I'm very, very proud of our small part in being able to do to help do that.
Excellent. And Lindsay, you've had a long history with the ANN forums.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I mean, that's probably like a good example to start with, is that I helped overhaul the ANN forums because they had a horrible reputation. I mean, the reputation still isn't great, but they had a really horrible reputation. Most of the time that I was there, probably predating when I joined, and about midway through working there, I was like, this isn't working anymore. We need to create a space where the worst actors aren't the ones dominating conversation all the time, because they make it so toxic that no one else wants to bother even contributing. I mean,
Right.
it was at a point where it felt like you couldn't have a normal conversation. You couldn't like celebrate
Anything.
anything.
Anything. Any
Anything.
post.
Any post. Every post was awful. And especially if it was related to like a queer artist or queer work, it was, you know, just people coming in there and saying the most heinous stuff and towing a line.
Right.
And so we overhauled them. And if you go look at the ANN forum rules now, like the opening paragraph is basically like, you cannot create an environment here that makes people feel lesser than, or that their humanity
Right.
is not valid based on sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, race, age, or mental ability, because
Right.
we also had, you know, people coming in there who would like to say horrible things about autistic people, and it was just like it was like the Wild West, but in like the worst way.
In the worst way, right? It was that leftover bit from like when CBR, you know, forums were like that, and it was like that leftover bit from the late 90s, where everyone's like, you know, information is going to be free, which means I can just say the stupidest stuff, and you're like, you know,
And
but
there's
what if
no
I want to actually have a
repercussions for
conversation
it.
with people?
You can't kick me out, you know.
Yeah, right.
Socially, you have to allow me to be here because freedom of speech. It's
Right.
like,
And also which this is actually a thing that used to happen to me on Yahoo groups back in the day, was
Yeah.
which word was it that was not okay? I'm like, you know what? Bye. You know, that's
Yeah.
not how that works.
Mhm.
Like if you're doing the which word, which line, it's like the answer is you're the problem.
mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I started Okazu 20 years ago. And you know, when I started writing about Yuri, I literally would get, well, Yuri is for guys, so you're not wanted. And I'd be like, well, I don't care about you. And it was such a unusual perspective, because of course I was much older. I didn't come to this when I was a teenager. So I'm an adult, and people are going, well, you're not wanted here. And I go like, whoops. Oh, well, like, I don't care. And it gave me a different perspective on the harassment, because, you know, they're trying to silence me. And I'm going, or I just don't care. And then I'm just going to talk anyway. So I would go on to ANN forums, and people would be like, well, you're not, and I'm like, whatever. It's cool. But one of the other things that I think really I love about all of these spaces is it's not just, you know, making space for queer voices, which all of you do in a way that obviously I thank you all very, very much. But also BIPOC voices, fans of color, and folks that are, you know, NB trans, and just making spaces for all perspectives. And nobody is suffering from loss of their perspective. You know, you have everything, and because we are not mentioning the straight white men, the answer is, of course, there are still the straight white men, plenty of them doing stuff in your fan spaces, and I really appreciate all of those perspectives. So that's kind of why I wanted you here. So what would you think, what are some of the things that you personally think that can still be done better in terms of inclusion. Oh, wait, and before I forget, also want to point out to our viewers that ANN is really good with global coverage, and they're getting voices from all over the world, which we in the United States tend to very much forget. You know, like, oh, hey, there are fans in other parts of the world. So what are some of the things that each of you think personally can be done better in terms of inclusion? So why don't we start with Vry? We'll go first with you this time.
Sure. I think about this a lot. You know, we're always trying to get better, all of us, I think, right? And I think even just looking at this panel right now, right, it's a very white room, and I think a lot of editorial spaces
Yes.
are still quite white because of these long-standing, going back decades, elements of access and, you know, ability to get chances. Like even at you know, at ANFM, Amelia, of course, is a woman of color, and she's stepped down a few years past, but a lot of the other founding people, like a good chunk of us were white, and so we had to make a conscious decision at a certain point that we're a very small team. If we bring on anybody else, which happens pretty rarely, I think we've brought on 4 new people since Amelia stepped down. They have to be a queer person of color. That is a hardline rule that we are making for ourselves, because I think it, like you said at the top, you know, it's very easy to be like, well, I want to make sure that it's somebody that I contact people I know because they have a good dynamic with it, because this
people I trust
personability is so it's very easy to fall into that and just be like, these people are all a lot like me, whatever that may be. So you have to make that conscious effort to really to follow other sites and other blogs. And like, I think doing a links roundup for ANFM has been one of the greatest things for just expanding what I know. So like I getting to know places like Blurry Otome or Stitches Media Mix and all these other great sites. And it can be tough because there aren't a lot of places that exclusively focus on anime and manga that are run by editorial staffs of color. A lot of the big ones are broader pop culture focused, and they're all very good, but it's not necessarily that concentrated space.
Right. No, absolutely. And when I'm reaching out to try to find people, I found this past year, a lot of the folks I knew were podcasters and bloggers of color. They were like, you know, I'm stepping back because of various things. And there's also a longevity issue too, because not everybody has the resources to keep doing stuff over time.
Yeah, it's
if
hard.
you're trying to find a job, you need to get the job, you know.
Yeah, that's something that everyone on our team has a day job, and we're all tired all the time. So
I hear that.
Yeah,
I totally understand that feeling completely. So Samantha, how about you? What do you think can be done better still in the space of being inclusive?
Honestly, I do have to agree with Ryan saying that most of the anime space, especially at your larger or more established publications, are still very white. And honestly, this is something that I've really had to take into mind, even when hiring. Like we actually just hired a new editor, and that was something that I had to keep in mind even during that, because it's very easy to fall into that trap of just hiring, you know, a straight white guy because straight white dude, because it's one of those things where they've been in the space the longest, they've done this, and it's
and they also put themselves forward
more
easily. I think.
Exactly.
Like if you ask on the internet, you know, does anyone want to do it? The chances are somebody who's been acculturated to think that they're competent at everything they do and that everything they do is pretty much going to be okay and allowed, they just tend to say yes. And other people have been told their whole lives that maybe they're lacking or wanting, often they self-censor their own achievements before they even have a chance to do anything. So yeah, I think that's always that's also a big issue, is the issue of privilege.
Fully agreed. And honestly, it's something that I've had to keep in mind when doing hiring runs, things like that, because and thankfully I've built up a very diverse team. We have sorry, brain fart. Several queer members, several uh, POC on our team, and it's one of those things that it's something you have to keep in the front of your mind. And and as Bryce said, it's very hard because the resources is an issue and things like that. And like her team, everyone on my team has a day job. We're all freaking exhausted. But I'd like to think that one day, if we can get there, I'd love to be at a point where I can at least do more for them and bring them in. But anyway, yeah.
Okay, and how about you, Lindsay? What do you think are some things that
Well, Ferreira brought up a really good point as far as just the difficulty. I do think that in the last few years, we've added a lot of POC members to the ANN team, not just on a freelance basis, but our staff is pretty diverse, both racially and when it comes to like sexual orientation and gender identity. But I still want to note that once you get past like a certain level, like the management level, it's still very white at ANN, myself included. So I would like to see more of those voices represented. I'm continuing to make space for them, at least in the editorial section, as much as I can. But I would hope that it can always be better.
I'd also like to add ability, disability ability. What happens is, it again, is an issue of accessibility. One of the things that I'm been trying really hard for myself is make much more of an attempt to make my blogs, my writing, my videos much more accessible, and making sure they have subtitles, making sure they have alt tags, and like many able-bodied people, I didn't do that for a long time because it wasn't important to me. But I have multiple sclerosis and I don't know where my body is going, and so I thought, well, I should at least think forward for other people who are in a situation where they're using text to audio readers. I feel like disability is definitely an issue that manga journalism, manga and anime journalism can be better, particularly when it comes to live events. And I think we all thought maybe the pandemic would fix some of that, and here's events going straight back to the bad behaviors. When I go to events, one of the things I'm always asking is, are there ramps up to the daises? Are there, is there good accessibility to the rooms? And honestly, a lot of conventions just really don't think that way. And I feel like that's a very poor showing. So I'm really
is that a structural thing within the convention centers themselves too? That
sometimes, but sometimes
ADA
it's
compliant?
just users, so I was at an event, which I will not name because I really love them and everything. I don't want to call them out as being bad. And I had said, what about ramps up to the dais? And they said, and as it happens, I had earlier that year had a mobility issue. So it was not that it was for me particularly, but I was very mindful of it. And they said, well, you can ask for one. And I thought, but why should they have to? How much does a ramp really cost? And they're like, well, we have to rent one, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, or you could just make your own and bring it. But I said to them, every day I sought to have a ramp on one side and the stairs on the other, just as a matter of course, because why wouldn't you make it accessible for people? And they thought about it and they wrote me back and they were like, we hadn't considered that. And that is the thing we're changing.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, with site accessibility, I think it's also, people are becoming more mindful, but there's also stuff you don't think about. We worked with Katie Castillo, who does accessibility work full time and does a wonderful job, who got us up to code. And there are things that I just didn't, like there are certain font sizes that font readers won't render correctly, or certain, and that's stuff that I think you have to consult a professional. And sometimes that becomes a matter of knowing where to go and building that into your operations budget.
That's right, exactly. And if there's nobody questioning that on the organizing committee or on the the management team of your website, then you don't have anybody mentioning it. And the thing is, people who have been cut out of that conversation because that aren't necessarily going to spend their energy to say, by the way, I would have loved to read your website, but
Mhm.
my voice to audio, my text to audio reader could not read it. Why would they take that energy necessarily and do your work for you? So yes, I agree with that entirely. So that's one of my things. Okay, so let's get into the meat of this. So we're going to start with you, Lindsay. What are some of the things that you've done in your time as the managing director and have seen done before that to make more inclusive changes in the ANN, the staff and the voices that are on your site?
So, wrong people listen to this probably won't like it, but one of the things I remember reading really early, maybe in a high school education career, is how when it comes to applying for jobs, people who have names that don't look white tend to be passed over a lot. So I unconsciously do the opposite. So if you send me your name and there's, it doesn't appear to be like George
Anglo.
Smith or something,
Yeah.
I take extra time on those applications intentionally, because I think those people are going to have a perspective that I wouldn't necessarily see every day. I was telling Erica before this, we have some features that are going to be published in the coming months from people who are from Bosnia and
Herzegovina.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny because my son is a map person and he can rattle off all the countries, but I keep getting like hung up on the consonants on that one.
If you don't get the thing right,
Yeah.
right. It keeps sticking on you. I get like that on lots of things, just for whatever reason that's working tonight for me. But yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have someone who wrote us an essay they're located there. I have someone else from Romania and another person who is located in Pakistan. And we've also in the past, published features that are specifically looking at fandom outside of like a Eurocentric view. And that's how I met Kiddick on Twitter. And he's great. He runs a lot of things in Nigeria. And
Right.
so he wrote a feature for us, and he's also done other work for us that's not just centered on that. We published one from a lady in India about a similar topic, and another one from Brazil. And I'm always looking to publish more of those because there's a really robust anime fandom worldwide, but we tend to get so focused specifically on like the US or US and Canada, or maybe, Western Europe, that we don't know what those experiences are like. There are series that have become huge over in those other countries,
Right.
like
India has a massive anime manga fandom, absolutely outstandingly huge.
and Latin America does as well.
Yeah,
And
India
it's,
is South America,
yeah, I can't even compete with, like Saint Seiya and
right.
stuff, and how that's blown up there. But I feel like ANN's has focused so much on the Eurocentric or US view that we don't know as much about our fellow fans in other places. And I really want to change that.
Excellent. And Samantha, what are some things that you have done particularly to make those changes with your site?
A lot of it, honestly, I've done a lot of work to empower my editorial team in what we approve. I talk about this fairly often, but every member of our editorial team gets an equal vote in what we run. Because I'm one person, I can't really dictate the entire agenda because I have my own single viewpoint, and I'd rather not just trust myself and only myself on that. So through that, we've been able to elevate and platform writers from around the world, like say Sangongo from, I don't know if I pronounced it right, I'm sorry, from Morocco, or Balaji Akinwinde in Nigeria, or say Gabriel Leal in Brazil, about so many different parts of the world, different parts of anime fandom, just like Lindsay has. And at the same time, it's allowed, this approach has allowed for a diversity of content, of writers that a lot of which either have never actually written an anime before, or just haven't had much exposure in like the North American space, to give them all platforms that allows new voices to thrive, and more importantly, diverse voices to actually reach our audience.
Excellent. Excellent. And how about you, Vry?
I mean, I don't know how comfortable I am personally claiming all that much. You know, I think the reason that I am here today is that I was unemployed when ANFM started up, and so as a result, I became the person who would do the sort of weekly, not to brain posts, but you got to you got to collate a lot of stuff and doing all the uploads. And then I became the person who did a lot of the daily back end because my schedule is the most weirdly at home, flexible on staff. But a lot of the editorial things at ANFM, we work really, really hard to make them team discussions and to make sure that, you know, we sort of pool all the pitches together so that folks can talk them over. We talk over reviews together, but like Cypress and Chiaki and Lizzie and Alex and Dee and Caitlin, like everybody is just killing it, and it's great. I guess for things that I have managed to do that I'm proud of contributing to the site as a whole is that we were lucky enough to have a mystery donor last year who gave us a little bit of a lump sum that we've been able to use for one-off projects. And because of that, I've been able to do some traveling to conventions and sort of get a little bit of a toehold to allow our website to kind of become a place where interviewees can talk about subjects they might not get to with other people. I got to have a wonderful conversation with Zeno Robinson about the unionization in the voice acting industry that was as it was last summer. I got to talk to Maria Issei about harassment in the voice acting field, and I'm very proud if the site can become the kind of place where if somebody sees our name, they know that this is a place where they can kind of feel emboldened to talk about those issues that maybe don't come up as much on a press junket. And we're working really hard to raise our pay rates right now because they are low as a crowdfunded site. You know, $50 is paid, and a lot of websites don't, but we want it to be higher. And I'm very proud that we get to work with a lot of less experienced writers, though, and kind of become a platform where marginalized writers who feel less comfortable submitting to bigger places, feel intimidated, can sort of get that experience, you know?
Right. And that's how I feel about Okazu, where my goal is to encourage people to start. And actually I gave Sai their start. And that's, you know, that's what I want. I want people to be like, I'm not a person who can do writing. And I'm like, you know what, you can, and you can be a professional at it, and let's start here. And there's no reason why you shouldn't. And that's the thing that I go around saying is like, you know, just do it. That's the goal I have. It's what Yuri Khan's all about, is what it's always been about, is like, do a thing. Nobody's going to stop you. And particularly now that we're all Zooming online and doing stuff, we can have conversations like this and make a panel and put it up on YouTube and look, a thing happened, you know, you can make it, and there's nobody stopping you from doing it. There's no barriers. So for me, that's always been kind of my goal, is to point out that the barriers that people are running into, yes, there are real barriers. There's no question that there are real barriers, but a lot of them are gone, and you're manifesting them yourself, like, well, I can't do that because, and my thought is, well, you probably could actually. And so let me make a space for people to do some stuff. And I think all of you do that really well too.
Thank you. And as I think everyone here and other sites too have really done that work, and it's become sort of able to get its footholds in. I've loved watching our side at least get to relax a little bit, because like if you go back to the first year or two of ANFM content, especially the seasonal stuff, it's a little bit oppositional, confrontational in ways where I'm like, well, maybe my central point about this show still holds, but I wouldn't go this hard on it
that way
now.
anymore. But that's a maturity thing that happens on all sites too. I mean, there's you know, I mean, you saw that on ANN too. You have, you know, a new managing director moves in and says, okay, here's how we're doing things, and you know, everybody wants to make their space, but maturity of site helps a lot. So it's not like Lindsay had to come in and go, okay, folks. you
No,
know.
I mean, if anything, that took me a little bit to get comfortable with, because if anyone has read This Week in Anime, it's a column that we have that has a more like comedic, poking fun at tone, and I thought it was all in good fun, and thought that something we published was really funny. And then the Japanese creator of that property read it and tweeted about it. And let's just say that like the word bussy was in that column, and knowing that they had read it and that was in there, it's like, I had to like go back and be like, sorry, I was too lax as your editor. I should have told you, no, we can't publish stuff like this. Kind of forgot it's easy to forget like also the broadness of everyone who could be looking, that what you're publishing is theoretically international always. Anyone can access the website and read
and
it.
the industry quality of it, like, we're all having fun, right? We're all having fun, and you don't necessarily think that somebody's going to read it and be like,
I didn't think the creator of Faraway Paladin was going to read the tweet about Faraway Paladin that talked about the elf in Faraway Paladin, and it's a sexy elf. So
right.
the guys had a little bit of fun with that, and you live and you learn.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And I don't know what I was thinking just recently. Somebody did something and I thought, well, that was a mistake. That shouldn't have happened. And I thought, we've all made that mistake.
Yeah.
We've all been slightly too enthusiastic, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
All I can say
And that stuff lives forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
all I can say is do not look into the Anime Herald deep archives. There is some stuff that I am still embarrassed about.
Right.
I
I
feel like you have to leave it up as a testimony though, right?
Exactly. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can't take that down. It's there forever.
It's there forever.
Yeah.
I still get hate mail over my Candy Boy review. I mean, this is like, I don't know.
Oh wow, that was like 2000 and
I was really angry about that one now, and I was not nice. I still get people writing about it. And I will occasionally get really, angry mails about something, and I go, you're really angry about something I wrote 14 years ago.
yeah.
I've moved on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I want to kind of do one last question, and this is the question that I ask every industry person I've ever asked about anything, and this is looking to the future. What are some changes that you would like to see either on your own site or generally with anime manga journalism, or overall fandom, if you can magic overall fandom, or specific situations? Looking forward, what are some changes that you would like to see? And I'm going to start with, why don't we start with you, Samantha?
For overall fandom, nuke it for more of it. No, just kidding. Honestly, I'd love to see more
Hey.
attempts to really rally around and uplift marginalized fans, marginalized voices, which I thankfully have seen a lot of attempts to really do so, especially in recent years. But excuse me, it seems like every day there's a new attack vector, a new danger that arises in some community, which either inevitably just excuse me, fighting off the last bronchitis,
Sympathy.
that either doesn't get noticed or it gets swept under the rug. Is kind of like a broken stair type of thing. For example, like the recent attack on localizers that we've seen,
Yeah.
which and honestly, I'm really hoping that as a community we start to really rally for a more diverse, more open environment and discussion that doesn't have to evolve into "I'm going to kill you." And within my organization, I'd personally like to really just continue to foster a diverse environment and become a place that writers can feel safe in pitching, feel safe in knowing that whoever's working with them is going to treat their work with respect, not just kind of overrun it, and to really just keep the doors open for new voices, diverse voices of people that have never really considered either pitching or writing about content. And I'm hopeful that we can continue that. And I know this year I'm working on diversities, working on accessibility to I should be working with Kay Castillo to make the site something that's fully accessible instead of just something that I cobble together late night on a WordPress builder.
Excellent. And how about you, Brian?
I mean, I mentioned before, and this is a hard thing to fix, but I would love to see outlets pay writers more, and that's an easy thing to say. Sprinkle a wand and say, I would like more money,
Like more
especially
money in this industry. Yeah.
yeah. But it is something that I think everyone here has done freelancing and knows how easy it is to be exploited or to accidentally exploit other people or to undervalue yourself, and how you get into that mindset as a freelancer.
Yeah.
And so I want to see, I wish that we as writers could be able to make that space and see, see folks who are able support smaller ventures where they can. And also, we've been wanting to do this forever, but at least for our site, I wish that we had the space to change up our premiere model a little bit, because I feel like being able to having the money that I can respectfully pay people to say, watch a couple episodes of this and get a temperature check for it is a little more helpful to people, because we really, for us, getting content warnings and all of that is a big priority. And that's hard when you're watching 28 shows in a week and you only have one of them. And by the 28th one, you hate anime and you don't know why you watch it.
I think we all feel that one deep in our hearts.
The preview guidelines are real, and yeah.
That's a good point. And how about you, Lindsay? What do you think you'd like to see?
Oh, I mean, I think in general, within the fandom space, I still think there's just a lot of improvement that can be made to foster more diverse voices. It seems like people who aren't white or straight are then like stuck specifically on a track for people who are like that, instead of it just being throughout everything.
Yes, we're all on the diversity panel all the time. It's always, you're always on the diversity panel. Like, yeah.
Like, I just think that, I mean, people bring their lived perspective to whatever they're doing, but I don't think there's any reason why, like, a Black person can't just write about how great Berserk is the same way that a white guy could. I mean, it's just, offering up everything and not like putting people in a box about, oh, well, this is where you're from.
Whatever perspective of whatever.
I mean,
it's just a perspective, man. You just have
I mean, like, queer readings are great, and I support those 100%, but I also just think you can really like idol shows regardless, and
which
write
is why
about
I liked being able to write summertime rendering for ANN, because it was totally not the kind of stuff I normally cover, but it was really fun to be able to write about something and not be like, let me talk about how queer it is. Like, yes, exactly. And that was a great manga, and I probably should read the next volume and write the next review, but I've been busy.
I still need to watch the anime that Disney like stealth dropped it.
I know, and like nobody noticed.
Reporting it for a year.
Yeah, for reasons unknown. It was available in Australia, like before it was available to us, like way earlier. It was just North America that they were like, no, not you though.
Not you.
So, is it bad that I forgot that?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Is it bad that I forgot that show existed?
I think most people
the point,
probably
right?
did.
Because they just completely stealth put them. And I don't have Disney Plus at all. Having no children and no one in this house that's like Disney, or Marvel. So we're just like, don't even, and so we don't see it.
Well, for us, it's on Hulu because that's owned by Disney. So if you have Hulu, you can watch it.
It's fine. Sorry about that.
Fine. There's too many of them.
I spent all my money on Star Trek things with Paramount.
But I'd like to see that like open up in general. I do think it is great, like on this panel itself, that we have, we're all kind of heads of the major fan publishing in this space, and we're all queer people, which I think is really cool. And as far as I know, it's the same over at Crunchyroll as well, so I feel like that's at least progress. But there's always more
people of color, more of other things. Absolutely. I would like to take the opportunity to sell on YuriCon, because I was talking to somebody who I respect very much, who's probably going to be doing a panel with us. And I was saying, I really want like a BIPOC panel. And they rightfully said, yes, but that's basically doing the not white panel. And I'm like, I know. And how do we say that? Like, I want Yuri fans of who are not white to be able to talk about a panel about things that are important to them, and not just as the diversity panel, but just like do a, you know, these are the characters we loved or whatever. And how do I advertise that in a way that doesn't really center whiteness by its lack of existence, which is also annoying, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, do you want to be on the not white panel is no better. So, you know, I'm going to just say, if you're watching this and you're nodding along, if you're a person of color and you're a fan of Yuri, please contact me. I want your panels. I really, really do. I don't want to have all of the panels look like this. So yes, we're all queer, but I would love to have more folks of varying abilities and varying ethnicities and varying color and varying race, whatever. So please do contact me. So I'm going to use that as a bit of an ad right there.
To beat Ryan and Sam to the punch, also please send me your features.
Yes.
Damn
And
it.
also Anime Fam and also Anime Herald.
Lindsay at animenewsnetwork.com.
There you go.
There you go.
And why don't you guys, Brian, why don't you give your email address to people can.
For us, you can actually go to animefeminist.com/submissions, and that is where we take all of our stuff.
Right.
And for
Right.
Anime Herald, it's very simple. HERA.FYI/pitch. HERA.FYI/pitch.
Okay.
That's our pitch form.
All right. And then Okazu, when you go on the homepage on the right-hand slide bar, there is a submissions link. Go there. It tells you exactly how to do it. Send them to me. I want your submissions. So
Okay,
Yeah,
so technically
actually-
we actually have a section on ANN2 under jobs, but I was just trying to.
yes, excellent.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
what am I doing? This is YuriCon. Please send us your pitches about Yuri manga, because I feel like that is where some of the most interesting stuff in the industry happens, and we don't get all that many submissions about it, and it makes me sad.
Oh, okay. All right. Great.
Agreed.
That's great. Yes, please write for Bri as well as me on that, and also ANN and also Anime Herald, because we're all interested legitimately in your perspective. So anyone who's watching this and is thinking, well, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Absolutely. If you can put words in a sentence, you can be a writer. And we want to hear from you. So thank you all. This was exactly what I hoped. Honestly, you just nailed hit the nail over the crumpet, as Lord Peter Wimsey would say. And do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up? Anybody have anything?
Thank you, everybody at home.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to the panel. It was a lot of fun.
It's great to have you. And yes,
I also had a lot of fun and want to remind everyone that chocolate will be on sale on February 15th. So,
Right.
you know, make sure you hit that up.
that's
Get
a
get
very
yourself
good
something
point.
nice.
Right. You should always, also, for those of you who are at home, a friend of mine told me yesterday, if you've got a partner and you're always bad at doing cards and chocolate, like I am, when you go out to do a chore, do it then when they're not with you. I was like, oh, that's very smart. I've been with my wife for 40 years and never got that right. So that's my advice for today.
You like got to put gas in the car and get the flowers or something.
There you
like
go.
that.
Exactly. Right. That's a good place to get flowers too, because they're always very reasonable at gas stations around here. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank you all again. I had a great time and appreciate it so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.